Hi guys, so today I wanted to do a video focusing on common beginner sewing mistakes, and a lot of what I'll be talking about is related to what I actually started out as a beginner doing, which was hemming. I'm still a beginner. I am definitely not that advanced with sewing. I apologize, my workspace is a little bit messy because I've been hemming and stuff. But yeah, I'd like to consider myself an advanced beginner, but still a beginner. So I'm still learning stuff. And some of these mistakes I'll tell you about, they may actually seem like self, hey, you should do this, definitely. Like, duh. But, we all make them. So some of them may seem obvious that you should do, others, hey, I didn't know that, or, you know, hey, I've been sewing for, a while and I've been making this mistake. So, just going to talk about several beginner, mainly sewing mistakes that are made. And the first, although should be very, hey, you should definitely do this thing, is make sure your sewing machine is off when threading or when checking your bobbin. And a lot of times people don't think about it. They're just like, I'll do it, nothing will happen. And then an accident may actually happen, even if you don't think it can happen to you. Second mistake beginners make, is not lifting the foot when you're done sewing and when you're not actively sewing. If you have your machine on and you're trying to do something and you don't want to turn it off, at least lift the foot. That will prevent the needle from going. Still, if you're trying to work with something, it's better to turn the machine off. But I know some people don't have a light or can't see without the built-in machine light, like there's mine. So mistake number 3 is not having a good enough lighting source. Like this LED light, let me turn off my lamp that I use here. See how much darker it got? Well, that's the LED light. Okay, and yeah, that looks good. But when I turn on my LED lamp, look how much brighter it is. So that's mistake number 3, is not having a good light source. A lot of times your overhead light isn't good enough. That's what I found to be true. So I invested in a light here. This one was on Amazon and I love it because it's actually flexible. So wherever I want it, I can move it to. Mistake number 4, and this is actually a big one, not reading your operating manual before starting. Even if you have been sewing for years and get a new machine, read your manual. I'm not saying you have to read all 100 pages or however many pages, but at least read your basics to learn about your machine and keep it handy. Never throw it away. Never, ever, ever throw this away. Because you never know when you'll run into something. A lot of times in sewing machine books in the back here, actually, there's troubleshooting. The upper thread breaks, and it tells you all these things to do and what page to do them on, which is really useful and convenient. Never, ever throw this book out. Ever. I don't care if you've had the machine for 5 years, know the ins and outs of it. Don't throw it away. You definitely want to keep it. And the 5th mistake beginners will make, is using a pair of scissors that is not meant for fabric. This is a pair of fabric scissors. But don't use a pair of kitchen scissors or a pair of arts and crafts scissors. Use a pair of fabric scissors because they will cut better and work a lot better for when you're trying to cut your fabric. The fifth mistake people make when they're beginners is not having a dedicated workstation for your sewing. I'm not saying other things can't be in the room, because they probably will be, but having just a dedicated area. Zoom out here. This is what mine looks like. I got my foot under there, another sewing box, my upcoming sewing projects there. But as you can see, I have some stuff I'm selling and other things in the room with me, computer back there, filing cabinet, and stuff in the room with me. But some of the room's kind of a disaster. But my sewing table has just sewing stuff on it. And that's a great thing. Everything's handy where you need it. And it prevents something from getting on it or getting lost too. So that's a really useful thing to abide by. Mistake number 6, which, sorry, I think it's number 6, but I may have forgot, is some machines, my machine does not have it, will have where you can press a button and sew. It has a machine for the backward stitch on my machine, but not the forward stitching, so I have a foot pedal. My advice, especially for beginners, use your foot pedal. Like, don't go with the button on the machine. And even advanced people, like, a lot of times I find myself having to use 2 hands to hold the fabric down when sewing, just to make sure it stays straight. An extra support with that extra hand. If you are using one hand to actually press and sew, you don't have that extra support. So that's why I definitely recommend using your foot pedal always. It's just so much more convenient. Mistake number 7 people make is not having a sewing box or some sort of sewing container. I have 2 of them. And it's just a great space to hold your supplies. Some people use baskets. And then there's some people that don't have anything at all. And it's like, they're not usually that expensive. Get one. Because it's just handy, easier, keeps your stuff organized, keeps stuff from getting lost. I know it may seem self-explanatory, like a duh thing, but some people don't think about it or think they'll be okay because I'm just doing basic projects. No, get you one. Seriously. And mistake number 8 people make is, let me see here if I got them. Okay, so I found what I was looking for. Is there's these end of spool things that you put on for your thread. The mistake people make is not using the correct size for your size thread. You don't want something that is smaller than your thread. It can get tangled, cause the needle to break. See, that one is bigger than my thread. This one would be too small. My machine came with 3 of them. So I definitely recommend making sure you're using the correct size. That's a mistake people make. Mistake, I believe, number 9 people make is using the wrong needle for the fabric or project they are doing. You have people using denim needles on lightweight fabrics, people using light needles on heavy fabrics, and it may leave too big a hole or just not work right. I have a collection of needles here. Get you some different size needles. These are some heavy duty ones. I got denim ones, heavy duty, leather ones. And if you don't know what size needle to use for your project, you can easily find out online, or my sewing machine book actually tells me, which is really convenient. Going along with that, these needles, don't use them in the machine. They are regular hand sewing needles. They are not sewing needles. The difference you will see, if you're not sure how to tell them apart, is the eye. Where the eye's location is on a sewing needle is up near the top, the opposite end from where the actual puncture of the needle is. And on these, I'm trying to find a good picture. if you can see, the eye is down at the other end, and then the top looks different. Those would be the ones you wanted to use for a sewing machine for sure. Okay, so mistake number 10, I believe, that a lot of beginners make is not correctly measuring your fabric. Triple check those measurements. Because once you do something, once you cut fabric off of something, it's done. Like, you can't, go back. I mean, I guess you can, but it just wouldn't look that great. And then mistake number 11, which I just made and I just learned about myself not that long ago, actually, and it's pathetic and sad, is when you're hemming, when you do your zigzag stitch to actually prevent fraying, you're going to want to stitch right along the actual edge. I'm up here just stitching up in here, and then it's fraying, and I'm like, well, why is it doing that? Well, it's because I didn't stitch at the correct spot. So make sure you stitch right along here and not up in here, like you can tell I did. Definitely not good. Mistake number 11 is people don't have one of these, which is a pin cushion, and just lay their pins out. Don't do that. They'll get knocked off. They'll get lost. You may get them in your foot, hand. Use a pin cushion, seriously. And then mistake number 12 people make is not actually having a fabric marker when they mark their pants. And they'll use like a regular marker or a crayon or pencil. You use a fabric marker because they are made to get off. Even if you forget to brush them off, it comes up instantly in the washer. So, and my final mistake that people make that are beginner sewers, which will be tip number 13, is what I did, and I'm sure a lot of other people are guilty of, is getting frustrated when they can't figure something out, or getting upset when something doesn't work to the way they thought it would. Like, I was getting upset because I was like, why are my pants fraying? And then I figured out, oh, I'm sewing on the wrong spot after I was hemming. And like, I was upset, but then once I figured it out, it's like, oh, there's all kinds of resources online. There's always a solution to a problem if you do have a problem with sewing. So, just try not to let yourself get frustrated. I know it's hard sometimes, but just be patient, take your time, and know you're learning. And I've learned a lot. I'm still learning, and I'll continue to learn and make mistakes even. You will make mistakes as well as a beginner sewer. So I hope that you found some of the tips in this video useful, and thanks so much for watching.